Yeah, y'all just discovered liquidity and think you read the eulogy. M2 on the screen like it's new to be. Watching central banks like Netflix, this ain't a movie beat. Back when I clocked the QE wasn't a meme yet. Balance sheet lines climbed quiet, it was deep set. I seen stocks float on cheap debt, real growth reset. Fed cut, markets moon, that was clean but the leaks wet. Now everybody's macro, parroting credit super cycle. Talking Dalio and Discord like you wrote the Bible. Fed prints, number go up, yeah that's tribal. Signal got famous and data going viral. You're late to the party trying to replicate the entry. Front running the thesis that already emptied. Every thread's the same inflation. Liquidity, gently manage your risk. Bro, you're long beta, not enlightened simply. They treat QE like a cheat code. Never learn to sheet load. Never track what happens when the streets corrode. All this talk about flows when the boat's old. It ain't the hoes, it's the hole that's got holes, bro. It used to be
Fed prints,
risk rips and everything lifts.
snap prints,
Sector flips and narrative shifts. Money don't levitate the whole cliff, it just rotates. Who gets to pretend they're a gift? You clapping for the press conference, eyes on the quotes. I'm watching the spread between zombies and real boats. You watch for pivot, I watch who still floats. When the carry trades crack and the tide hits throats. Everyone's screen lit, green with the same plot. Following fin with macro like it's one god. M2 up, stonks up, cute thought. Till velocity dies and the big gets soft. You learn one correlation and think that's law. But every edge rots once it's seen by the mob. By the time YouTube's teaching you how to front run the Fed, that alpha's in hospice, hooked up, brain dead. They zoom out to 2009, they see the trend. I zoom in on the fractures where the flows bend. Liquidity's a lens, not a guarantee, friend. It pick winners and zip that errors at the end. You talk regime change like it's just a new fib line. But this is where cheap credit flatlines. No more free, carry the bail, bad bets. No more buy every dip, the Fed protects, yeah. The credit cycle's tied, you still worship its ghost. Think the same dose of heroin gon' give the same growth. It's not print it to win, it's printed, choose host. Liquidity don't save it, just reassigns hope. So when you say money printer go, I hear fear, cause everybody chanting it, volunteered to be here. You weren't earlier the choir, they preach near. I was reading HA sheets while you were memeing last year. Now the whole crowd macro, but nobody zooms past the part where correlations crash when they're too gas. The same model you copied from the last flash is exactly why you hold bags when this run laps. So keep your Fed go, merching your thread storms. I'm done with the surface, I respect the dead norms. When the money supply chart stop matching your hedge form, just know this was the warning before the next form. Yeah. I ain't wait on no guru to decode it. I watched the whole economy levitate on fumes and knew the spell was bloated. Every chart looking bullish, yeah, through a QE filter. Strip the stimulus out the picture and the market's a skeleton and glitter. Look, they told you growth, I saw a corpse with a spray tan. Told you resilient economy, I saw a patient on state plan. Ventilation, living off rate manipulation. Inflation, sedation, liquidity, salvation. Bro, this wasn't a cycle, this was life support as a vocation. And once I caught that, everything snapped into placement. Clarity ain't wisdom, it's the moment the bullshit loses entertainment. See, I ain't in crypto for hype, I ain't in markets for lights. I'm in the cracks of the system where truth starts fighting for its right to be spoken. And time is just the lag between a lie and it's broken. You chase coins for dopamine, I chase forces. Monetary physics, credit horses riding toward cliffs. Says policymakers remix stimulus like divorce kids fighting over Christmas. I'm bored with this whole world addicted to low rates. Economic opiates, debt stacks so high, the interest payments got their own soulmates. And every time a curve inverts, they tweet hopium, print sodium, raise podium, act like the laws of money turn pliable when you odium. Nope, reality don't owe you nothing. The fiat spell got cracks, hairline fractures humming, confidence crumbling, inflation muttering, debt cycling up like it's summoning the ghost of every Austrian economist you clown for warning you this day was coming. Time it ain't prophecy, it's pressure. You watch a system distort long enough, you know the next measure. I ain't guessing collapse, I'm reading incentives, watching policymakers panic like teenagers hiding consequences. They rewire the whole market to depend on their mood swings. Nothing prices fundamentals, everything prices the Fed's wings. That's why I ain't hyped on alt seasons, I'm hyped on treason. The economy betraying itself in slow motion sequences. All the clarity did was make the time invisible, like noticing the beam crack before the house becomes unlivable. You walk different when the floor ain't unforgivable. I didn't come to crypto for fortune, I came cause the fiat world's distortion. Finally hit a threshold where denial got contortion. And once the spell breaks, markets don't reform, they reorphan. Capital don't negotiate, it finds a new orphanage, new host, new fortress. You're still praying the old world holds. I'm watching the weak bolts loosen in real-time motion. This ain't pessimism, it's sober vision. In an era where everyone's drunk on the last artificial expansion. Clarity to timing, that's when you see the system dying. Not as tragedy, but the logical landing for a world that bet savings against infinite borrowing and prayed it wasn't gambling. Now watch the cycle fold. This ain't a warning, it's a timestamp, and I'm just narrating the moment. The whole illusion finally can't stand.
Art market looking like a chalk outline gallery. Coin slump stiff where liquidity used to be reality. They died from gravity, cause when macro snap back, it don't spare fallacies, it subtracts them with casual brutality. These see no lights flicker, you can hear the pit bars whisper. House closed, chips frozen, please exit through the blister. Whole chain, ecosystems built on discord. Charisma looking like abandoned strip malls. After the lenders got the picture, bro. These projects ain't projects, they performance off of degenerates. Trading narrative derivatives with zero deliverables. You ain't early, you just edible. A liquidity snack with optional flammables. All them influences at next cycle, but bro, wait for the flipping in, but bro, wait for the airdrop, but bro, wait for the happening. Meanwhile, fundamentals return like overdue reckoning, and all the little gambling rings get swept with the reckoning. And look, everyone in this market been groomed back, was trained like circus pets to chase the fattest candle after it's fattened by the same whales that sold them dreams with backstage passes to nothing. Whole generation conditioned to follow influences bags like gospel, doing the opposite of prudent, calling it alpha, calling it genius. The prices went vertical, all VC funded helium. These boys ain't investors, they beneficiaries of a decade where lotto tickets got crowns and influencers got crowns built from tokens pitched in private rooms over lukewarm lattes and bulletproof vests of hype. Kings anointed by coincidence, champions minted by liquidities. Women never fundamentals, never competence, just a dopamine rush of buying the coin. The promoter said would ascend, and now the air leaking out the narrative like a punctured dream. And every thought leader who spent 10 years pumping illicit schemes about to face the blade of macro discipline guillotine season. Heads rolling down Discord streams, bro. The whole market been following the loudest voices, mistaking charisma for choices, mistaking hype for insight, mistaking trend for talent. Everyone out here think they winning, cause price went up on counterfeit conviction, not realizing they surfed the wave of malinvestment that dissolves when fundamentals return to collect rent. Get ready to get wrecked. The influencers you worship, the mascots for misallocation, avatars of the bubble, signals of a system that crowned gamblers as sages and mistook luck for calibration. This the purge, this the culling of cloud, this where the crowd that followed everyone else's bags find out that genius in a zero-rate world ain't genius is loud. This that season where the market stop rewarding charisma, start taxing delusion, and everything built on hype is marked to extinction by the cold math of intrusion. Chains with no through pill, but a mascot in a TikTok code deleted. That one's with VC subsidies and zero settlement, vault depleted. Bridges built on trust me, bro, and Discord might revoke completed. Ponzi protocols calling themselves Deos like that make them exempt receded. You was running on vibes, the market running artists. You was worshiping founders, the macro worshiping losses. Real settlement asks questions that narratives dodge often, like what do you secure, what risk do you soften, what value you settle when liquidity get coffin. Capitulation look like wisdom when the system stop pretending. The casino ain't suspended, it's ended. Rug pulled by fundamentals the same moment QE descended. It's the graveyard of narratives where every white paper lie, every influencer high, every community driven Ponzi go to finally die. Look, if your chain can't stand without dopamine injections, without mimetic protection, without airdrop resurrections, it collapses under the first real price inspection. Nature don't pity that, it corrects it with aggression. Bro, the real chains don't flinch when liquidity thin. They settle value, not follow with security, not trending. When macro shift wins, all coins their oxygen like candles in a submarine where the hatch won't open again. I ain't celebrating the culling, I'm just narrating the logic. What's pointless gets punished, what's real get acknowledged. And once the casino dissolves, ain't no rebranding from the fraud. Death ain't reversible when fundamentals relaunch. This the great unmasking, the liquidation of illusion. The moment the market stop paying for hype-induced confusion, everything built on liquidity dies when the liquidity retire, and the only thing left standing is whatever clears value under fire.
system looks stable till you listen in the crawl space. Hear the pipes hissing, wires blistering, whole structure whispering, one shock away from falling on his broad face. This that crack up prelude, where the charge look euphoric, but the pulse sound morbid, where every rally feel historic, but the breath behind is dormant. You ain't bullish, you distorted, you ain't early, you contorted. You're swimming in a pool of leverage, calling yourself supported. Bro, this economy ain't strong, it's sedated. 14 years of QE got investors vaccinated against reality, immune to fundamentals, dependent on stimulus like a junkie with credentials. Race up one notch, and half the Fortune 500 feel existential. Banks sweating, treasury stressing, repo markets twitching like the system need confessions. Liquidity ain't rain, it's anesthesia. Cut the drip, watch market seize up, whole world freeze up. Investors beg the Fed for Jesus, like save us from the cost of money being normal again. But normal died in Bikini 10. Every cycle since, just injections, backstop, swap lines, policy corrections. This ain't price discovery, it's crisis deflection. The system don't adjust, it dissociates to protect the illusion of perfection. Look, volatility chart look like EKG spikes on a cardiac patient praying stimulus might buy them one more quarter, one more hike reprieve, one more transitory relief to cover inflation's teeth. But truth creeps slow then hit quick. Confidence ain't a metric, it's a wick. Once it burns enough, even low CPI look like a trick, and every treasury auction sound like a cough in a crypt. And yo, it's the extinction event where liquidity myths get sent back to the counterfeiter's tent, and every chain built on vibes gets bent, buckled, smothered under the weight of real intent. The seed logic gets unplugged, tables folded, rugs pulled, air sucked out the lungs of every mean project that lived on dopamine and drums. All them liquidity driven narratives done. It's the part where economic reality walk back and like a father you ain't seen but still run from. Risk get repriced, fantasy get iced, and every community coin turned to a tomb overnight. You was bullish on hype, cool, now watch hype die. The moment capital asks, what do you settle when chains realize they got no reply? This ain't a cycle reset, this is the extermination of narrative pets. When capital sober up, the crypto casino get repossessed. Only real settlement left, only systems that clear value survive the stress. Everything else evaporates like breath on glass when the macro confess that the era of free money finally dead. They don't want to admit this is end cycle behavior where markets trade on hope, denial, and prayers rather than productivity layers.
You can't taper hallucination, can't normalize a nation addicted to zero race like a personality mutation. We living in a structure that extended past its function. The credit super cycle held together by assumption, and the cultural illusion that don't matter if it's government consumption.
Bro, every indicator flashing apocalyptic, and any influence is still cryptic. Tweeting chart patterns like a ritualistic scripture, pretending liquidity draws on bullet statistics. This the chapter where the masks fall off, where the stimulus-born profits get marked to cause, where every up-only dogma gets tossed, where fundamentals reinsert like a landlord you forgot. And when the crack up hits, it don't hit in candles, it hits in confidence. The moment markets realize the Fed ain't commandos, just narrators with panels and dwindling ammo. This the prelude, the quiet breath before the boom, the part where everybody tweet bullish cause they feel the undertow in the room. I'm just narrating doom the way a surgeon narrates a wound. Cold, clinical, honest, cause denial is expensive and truth always blooms at the edge of the cycle's tomb.
They keep preaching Bitcoin's money, but nobody spends the shit. They hold it like a scratch-off ticket, hoping for a viral lift. That's not adoption, that's a lottery myth, wrapped in a libertarian prayer and a VC pamphlet script. Utility ain't the narrative, utility's the proof, but the chain ain't carry commerce, ain't settling truth. It's a museum piece, locked in glass, watched by boomers in suits who own it through custodians like absentee landlords flexing borrowed roofs. Meanwhile, every maxi on Twitter confusing conviction with spite, calling how the use case cause they too scared to price. What happens when liquidity leaves and the chain meets life? You can't store value if you never store strife. Money gotta move for the market to choose. If the base layer's asleep, your vault don't prove. It just floats in belief like a balloon losing altitude in a room full of dudes calling their resistance breakthrough. This ain't digital gold, it's a digital hold, a decade-long fold, disguised as bold, cause nobody wants to admit that monetization stalled cold. Real money arrives from scars, not slogans from conflict, not conferences from pressure, not bycast from the pain of settlement, not the dopamine of charts past. But y'all don't track flows, you track influencer bags, you crown kings off of luck, call stupidity alpha, and treat the last bear market survivor like a prophet with data, bro. This chain ain't monetizing, it's mythologizing.
advertising, and myths don't settle value, they just paralyze it. Price outran used like sneakers outrun pavement, but when used don't catch up, price face enslavement. That's not bearish, that's basic. Money without movement is vacant, all premium, no basement. So while Bitcoin float on the throne, built the forms, Litecoin kept grinding through cycles that boredom, no hype, no coat, just uptime that's sworn like an oath to keep moving even when no one applauding. Quiet chains don't need believers, they need users. They don't monetize hope, they monetize bruises. The friction, the settlement, the scars of choosers who trust action over slogans and systems over spoofers. That's why survival ain't random, it's rhythm. Chains built to withstand real world schisms. Privacy, throughput, fees with precision, not the speculative prison where the whole market's vision is just hoping the Fed cuts rates with derision. Bitcoin's premium too fat for its function. It's faith overweighted in usage, malnourished, living off narratives. The honest will punish. Money demands violence, coordination, and purpose. Not memes, not merch, not influencer sermons, not ETFs promoting politically safe versions. The macro breaks, speculators scattering artists left shining. The chains built to matter. Use or die, and most gon' shatter.
Yeah. Yeah. Take the bull. Yeah. They celebrating candles like the system ain't flammable, acting like a bull run, something understandable. When the engine knocking louder than a scandalous mandible. Prices climb fastest when the trust becomes cancelable. Crack a boom energy. I'm watching people clap at the symmetry of inflation eating wages like a victory. Everything up, yeah, cause money down miserably. They don't get it. This ain't growth, it's a fear bid visibly. Capital sprinting from currency instability. Buying anything physical, digital, mythical, just to escape a dollar getting clinically pitiful. Market charts look biblical, parabolic lines like prophets getting whimsical. But the scriptures ain't lyrical. When the money starts dying, balloons look invincible. This that last stage boom, the sick heartbeat thumping like a rave in the tomb. People buy stocks cause they scared of the gloom, not cause profit's gonna bloom, but cause cash about to fume. It's doom dressed up as a festival tune, a funeral with confetti dumped in the room. I'm like, how you label this recovery? It's shoppers trying to outrun currency discovery. When they notice dollars melt like cutlery, they rush the shelves, push prices upwardly. The crack up boom is a paradox. Things look strong right before the marrow rots. Everything pumps when stability stops, and the higher it pops, the harder the drop. Once belief gets chopped, people swear they getting rich.
You sure?
Your money's buying less every twist.
Your rent's a cliff.
Your food's a myth, your wages stuck in no sticks. This ain't prosperity, it's panic painted pretty. It's citizens sprinting from a currency getting gritty. Stuffing carts cause the dollar got shifty. Buying homes at 10x out of city cause they terrified savings might turn to confetti. And markets love the frenzy, stocks levitate, bonds get edgy. PMI shaky like a drunk with envy. Politicians bragging like the boom ain't temporary. Everything's priced like the party's hereditary, but the DJ's coughing and the speakers getting cemetery. This is the boom before the rust, before the rust, the high before the distrust. The crowd screaming up only with a currency they don't trust. So crack a boom finale. The charts hit valleys after dopamine rallies. It ends now with buyers tallying, but with currencies negged by their own balance sheet calories. And when this phase ends, it ain't mild correction. It's the moment the market stops pretending that inflation's a feature and not the system's last weapon.
Yeah. It's gonna be repetitive, but I need you to understand. Yeah. Confidence cracked before the numbers did.
You can see it in the tremor of a fund manager's upper lip. The way they preach resilience like a half-forced script, like they know the math different when the curtain splits. This ain't panic, it's code of structural. Trust evaporates slow to the whole thing's dysfunctional. Liquidity thin spreads wide and like it's cultural. When assets once safe start feeling provisional. Dollar looking shaky in the corner of vision. Bond auctions limp like they miss supervision. Treasuries used to be religion, now even the choir's asking questions about the catechism. Confidence collapses quiet. At first shows up in the disperse, selling the funds that can't quench they thirst. In the way liquidity deserts the markets that used to feel safe, now curse. The Fed talks firm, but the crowd look past it. Cause language don't matter when the scaffolding's plastic. Every press conference feel like a tourniquet tactic on a bone split, clean from debt, gone Jurassic. You ever seen a system lose credibility? It's uglier than volatility. When savers start doubting stability, the whole regime is fragility instantly. Interest spikes ain't policy, their ransom demands. Pay me for holding your sovereign plans, because nobody trusts a house with debt in every room. Termites in the rafters and a roof held by bands. This is the side before the stampede of fatigue. The quiet sense that the math ain't gonna concede the speech is optics, so central bank please. And when trust breaks, nothing works. Rate cuts fail, printing hurts. Liquidity injections just wet the dirt. The currency collapses the moment belief deserts. Cause yo, this whole economy been balanced on air. Consumption financed by portfolio flair. Home equity loans passed into despair. People spending gains that swear were earned but came from monetary prayer. What happens when assets drop but debt stays the same? When the tide pulls out on the credit game. When your collateral melts but your mortgage don't. When your stocks implode and your boss says we won't be needing your labor if revenues don't. Defaults pile like chips in a gambler's grip. Job losses hit quick and the same crowd swearing printing fixes shit get introduced to the part where liquidity quits. The truth is brutal. Asset price dependence ain't wealth. It's a ventilator on bad health. And when valuations break, there's no stealth bailout that patches the systemic self. And when the money gets questioned, politics steps in with the same old grin and the sharp new pen. Withdrawal limits, capital controls, exit taxes dressed as protecting households. Temporary measures that never get old. A system that freezes the second trust molds. Governments don't reform, they constrict. The more the crowd resists, the faster they restrict. Then the insolvency hits daylight. All that low rate debt from the 0 rate years, worth less than a cashier's tears. Banks holding bonds nobody wants near. And if they mark in the market, bro, the whole sector disappears. They hide it with account magic. Call losses unrealized, like insolvency's tragic only if recognized. But the truth's in the margins. Banks worldwide sitting on carcasses. Trillions in assets with negative carcassness. Central banks praying the market won't spark this shit. Yet confidence don't care what they call it. A loss is a loss, even if accountants stall it. So where the scared money run? Not to sovereignty, not yet. It runs to illusions on training wheels. Gold, cause grandpa said so. Real estate, cause bricks feel stable. ETFs that track Bitcoin without any other fable that makes it matter in the first place. Have correct moves, safety that's actually fragile. Homes can be taxed, gold can be seized. ETFs freeze, custodians please to follow the state's new decrees. People rotate in illusions cause the truth feels frightening. The idea that money itself is whitening like bone under lightning. But here's the pivot, the whole arc's point. Once fiat trust breaks, the market seeks what the state can't choke, can't seize, can't weaponize through fees. A parallel system forms, quite useful, irreversible. Not a rebellion and resignation, a migration. The conclusion is simple, confidence collapse. Sad asset collapse for political clan bank revelation. A systemic exit to sovereign money replaces illusion. And all this time, the crowd thought crypto was a casino, it was an art.